becomes immediately clear to anyone who has had some experience in reading Jain philosophical texts. The opposition between Dharma and Bhava is a common oppositional pair. And this again has to do with this, what I think of as typically Indian awareness that there is a subjective and an objective component to everything. Also when it comes to karma. So karma is, in Jainism, is usually thought of as a sort of defined matter. It's described as puddgala, as coarse matter. It's something like a very fine kind of sand or so. It's material. And in the common metaphors that are used in Jain texts, it is believed that this very fine matter, which is karma, sticks to the soul. There are many texts which explain life as, for instance, a wrestler who, before entering the wrestling ring, has oiled his body. And what happens when he starts wrestling? Dust sticks to his body because he oiled his body before going into the ring. So the dust that sticks to the rest of the body is compared to karma. Drama karma, the material karma that sticks to a person. That would not be so bad if this did not have a subjective effect. That's the whole problem with karma. That it's not just matter, it is something that affects our bhava, that affects our inner being. So when we speak about karma, we can look at karma from 2 points of view. We can look at it from an external point of view, as that alien substance that sticks onto the soul. We can also look at it from a subjective point of view. How does it affect us? And that is the bhava karma. So, this explains the opposition we have here between dravya karma and bhava karma. So, the dravya karma tamam, bhava karma vivarchitam. Muktam is another passive participle. It's from the word much. And there is a Sunday rule that says that the thing that we write in transliteration as C, it is the unvoiced palatal consonant ch, which historically, if you go to Indologie, this long back, once upon a time, was a guttural k. This ch becomes k again, is restored to its historical original if followed by a voiceless consonant. For instance, the t in ta. Ta, which we all know is the typical suffix for the passive participle. So much ta becomes mukta. Much means to liberate. So mukta means liberated, free. This aya suffix is plural instrumental. There's an instrumental case we already come across in the preceding verse. We saw Swabhavina. Bhavina is the instrumental of bhava. these types of suffixes which is immediately recognizable. If we have a masculine or neuter noun ending in a, but not singular, but plural instrumental, we do not have Bhava, but in singular, Bhava is plural instrumental. Also, strictly speaking, the instrumental is the case for with which we indicate instruments. That's why it's called instrumental. So if you do something by means of something, that something will be an instrumental case. But there are also other uses of the instrumental case. Often we see words in the instrumental which are used as adverbs. Sometimes, and this is what obviously is the case here, the instrumental can assume functions of the ablative, so away from something, separated from something. And this is what obviously is the case here, because if something is mukta, is liberated, it is not liberated by karma. That makes sense. Because karma is something that creates the non-freedom, the boundedness. So here, it's clearly liberated from dravya karma, freed from material, substantial karma. And that same thing, uttam, that is bhava karma vivarjitam. Yes, vivarj means to lead or to say. Parajita, which we saw already in verse 3, the linguistically very sharp-witted student may ask, why did it not become vrta? Why is it varajita? I owe you an answer to that. This verb vrj is usually used as in the positive form. Varajayati, as if it was a verb of the 10th verb class, means to cause something to leave, or to separate. So varajita, that is the particle of vrj, causative, means separated. So, whatever it is, the thing that is liberated from dravya karma is separated from bhava karma. So, if we get rid of the dravya, there will also not be the subjective effect. We will not experience the negative effects of karma. And that same thing is also no karma rahitam. Rahita, from verb rah, has a similar meaning, to be separated from. So, rahita, particle means separated. This is separated from no karma. What is no karma? For English speakers, English speakers can guess what no means. It means no. So no karma is not karma. And this is a parallel term, and this is something I have to tell you because non-specialized dictionaries perhaps will not mention this. This returns to what I said earlier, that there are certain types of karma in Chinese theory that affect your consciousness. There are other types of karma that do not do that. They do have effects on your life, longevity. There's another type of karma which affects your physical state of being, whether you were born as a person who will grow tall, or whether you stay short, whether you will be strong and healthy, or weak and unhealthy. All this is determined by karma. That's bad in itself. But these things do not necessarily affect the way you think. They do not affect the way you conduct yourself in everyday life. In other words, they will not affect your further future course. They will not affect further karma that you may gather. And thereby, these other types of karma, they're not the really bad types of karma are the so-called karmas, which cloud our consciousness, which make us think wrongly, and thereby also act wrongly, and thereby gather bad karma, which leads to bad rebirth. We don't want that. Anyhow, if you get rid of all these karmas, then you will also not suffer from these subjective effects. And you will also be, the rest of those other karmas are also taken care of. So all this is in the neutral form. And then there comes, I'll tell you in a moment why I think it is in neutral form. Because now comes a verb, vidhi. Vidhi, vid is a verb, means to know. This is the regular form. Vidhi is an imperative. Second person singular. So you will know. So I'll go to my some verb words. This is inevitable. Please buy it or download it if you haven't downloaded it already. And on page 159, vid, and the second class. And if you go to the table, you'll see it says it's slightly irregular, unfortunately. You will find the is the So this is a command to the reader. Know that. And what you know is, of course, the accusative. So here we have it. That what is liberated from Brahma, know that to be also separated from the subjective effects, the Papa karma, and also to be devoid of no karma, the kind of karma that determines longevity, etc. Nishchayena, just like Svabhavina, it's one of those immediately recognizable singular instrumentals which can be masculine or neuter. In this case, it's masculine. Nishchaya is a masculine verb. Nishchaya is yes, Nishchaya means decision. So literally, nishchayena means by decision. Does that make sense? Well, it makes sense if you remember what I said just a few minutes ago, that very often a word that is used in the instrumental has the function of an adverb. So we should translate this nishchayena not as by decision, but rather as decisively. Know this with certainty. And then comes something, and I have to confess that I have a bit of a problem with this final word, Paramātmabodhaḥ. Chit is one of the many words in Sanskrit for consciousness. Atman we've already seen, Atman. And that means self. So the consciousness self, or the self that is characterized by consciousness. But I have a problem with this ending, Atmana, which is either a genitive or an ablative singular. And I don't know quite how to fit this in. So what do you do in such a case? You mill around within your mind, so you try to piece things together, see whether a genitive would fit, whether an ablative would fit. I have to admit that I'm not so sure about this. Now, what do you do if you're not sure? There's a golden rule. There's a 1,000-year-old rule. So get ready. What do we do when we read a newspaper? We read a newspaper article about some debate in Parliament, which took place the other day. And we read something that makes no sense at all. Now what do? You just keep on reading, in the hope that the rest of the article will tell you what it means. It's a trivial rule, but it often works. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to solidly continue reading in the hope that we'll find out. Now, to our great delight, the next verse contains many words which we already know, many case forms which we already immediately recognize. Anandam brahmano vijate yavasitam jnanina ashyanti jatyanta ivabhaskaram. Anandam, joy. One of the very first things we saw already in verse 1. We know that ananda is a masculine word, so the nominative would be anandas, but we have anandam, accusative. This is the object. Brahmano rupam. Rupa is a neuter word. Sometimes, rarely, we also see rupa used as if it is a masculine word. Unfortunately, in an ancient language like Sanskrit, which has been used for a few thousand years already, there are authors who are not so sure whether an A word is masculine or neuter. Sometimes they mix up these genders. Usually, rupa is neuter. And rupa means shape or form. Brahmano. And it's typical O. Now, a word ending O, always suspect, most probably that means that the next word begins with a voiced consonant, which is the case here. In Rupa is voiced. So, Brahmano must have been an original Brahmanas. We've seen that already a few verses back. that the combination us at the end of the word becomes O when followed by the voice consonant. And what is Brahmanas? If you have absolutely no idea what that could be, well, it could be the nominative of a word Brahmana, like Ananda, Ananas, Brahmana, Brahmanas. Could be, right? Well, it's not, because if you look at your dictionary and you search for the word Brahmana, you won't find it. It doesn't exist. What does exist is a word Brahman. Brahman, like Atman, Rajan. This is a class of nouns and Manam. And Brahman is a neuter noun. We've already seen the paradigm, or at least I've given you in the list of grammatical notes, right? Totally ranged tiny paradigm in the grammars. So if you have a word Brahmanan as a basic noun, then Brahmanas is either a genitive or a ablative. And again, we have to see what fits. Ablative means away from. Does that make sense? Away from Brahman? No, not really. The genitive of Brahman. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Brahmanam, the form of Brahman. Which brings us to the question, what is Brahman? Now, I've been talking for a long time already. Now we've hit upon one of the most portentous, important, prominent words in the whole of Indian intellectual history, Brahman. And since I assume that all of you are interested in philosophical topics, I'm sure that somebody among you can tell all of us what Brahman is. Do I see any volunteer who will tell us what is the Brahman? Somebody! Oh, come on. Hi, Mr. Yes, no. Please tell us, enlighten us, what is the Brahman?
How difficult to say in one sentence, but
take a few sentences.
That's the all-pervading spirit. It is described in different contexts, also, but in the Upanishads, mostly it's the spiritual being of everything. It sometimes in Bhagavad Gita is explained as the all energy, of course, in material sense, material matter.
Right.
But it's the substance, the eternal substance of everything.
Yeah.
See? And it's the spirit of it's eternal, and Upanishads describe it as eternal, Satchitananda, blissful, and complacent.
Yeah. Is there anyone who might like to supplement this? Because as Mr. Paramātmabodhaḥ just said, this is a complicated matter, a very subtle matter, about which different views exist. So what we said just now is basically all right from the point of view of certain persons, but there are also other points of view. So we could extend this description. Do I hear any suggestions? Mr. Shade?
Yeah, Brahma could also mean self.
Means self, yes. And we have these Upanishadic references which say that the Atman actually is the Brahman, sort of you could think of Brahman as kind of fire, the cells, the souls, the Atmans are sort of sparks that have jumped off of the Brahman. So yes, and that is indeed a common idea, but again, it's not universally accepted. There are people who say, no, that is a terrible mistake. You should not identify them. Yeah, Mr. Matt, sorry, I never see Matt.
Yeah, it's sometimes described as the universe, like the cosmos.
Sometimes it is, from a certain point of view. So, yeah, somehow we should also work that into our final definition or description of what Brahman is. Any other supplementary? Yes, this is awesome.
Yes. From my understanding, Brahman is the ocean of consciousness without form. And then comparing to, we can take an Advaita Vedanta lens, for example, compared to a Shaiva Tantra lens, for example, in Shaiva Tantra, well, the divine is consciousness, but it's also filled with Shakti, it's also filled with creative capacity. But then when we speak about Brahman, it's usually consciousness separated from creative capacity, separated from the material world, in some philosophical systems.
Exactly. That is a very important addition. We was always put it into a context and say, according to some, it is so. And if we do that, then indeed, what you said is another useful addition to what we've discussed until now. Can perhaps somebody make it, can somebody among you take everything that has been said until now about Brahman and extract something from that? Yes, Mr. Evans.
So maybe one way to think about it would be that there's some underlying reality, so that which is the true reality, which is below appearances and supports appearances.
Yes.
And there's a lot of debate about what that reality consists in.
Yes.
So if I'm a materialist atomist, I might think it's atomic. If I'm a Vedanta, I might think it's consciousness. And so you get this sort of like a placeholder for whatever the really real thing is, and then the different schools have different accounts of what the really real thing is.
Yeah.
Sort of a Vasiya or something like that.
Yeah. I think I will stop asking for further contributions now, and I will give you my own, perhaps very disappointing view of the matter, which is an historical one. Throughout recorded Indian intellectual history, people have been writing about the Brahman. And in the beginning, it was not really thought out in full specifics. It was a sort of vague intuition that there had to be something like this. And now we'll have a look at what the dictionary says about the etymology of Brahman. Now here, according to Monier Williams, Brahman, neuter, literally growth, expansion, evolution, development, swelling of the spirit or soul, derived from a verb, brug, and brug, brunhati, first class verb, to be thick, to grow great or strong, to increase. So, this is the underlying idea that something that grows, that has some expansive strength in it. Then the dictionary continues, the sacred word, the Veda, can also be Brahman, again in certain contexts. A text or mantra used as a spell. The sacred syllable Om. Religious or spiritual knowledge. holy life. One self-existent impersonal spirit, the one universal soul, or one divine essence or source from which all created things emanate, or with which they are identified and to which they return. The self-existent, the absolute, the eternal, and it goes on and on. Now, important is if we look at what later thinkers have said about the Brahman. Common to all of them is this idea that we are living in a universe that has order. We are not living in chaos. There is order in everything. Life is order. Nature is order. And Brahman is the source of that order. This is where everybody agrees. But it is also the starting point for differences of opinion. There are certain schools of thought where we see the idea that order must be something intelligent. We tend to identify intelligence with conscious living beings, with persons. Therefore, the Brahman must be God. The next step is the quarrel. Which God? So there are Vaishnava Hindu thinkers who say Vishnu is the Brahman. There are Shaivas who say Shiva is the Brahman. There are also atheistic thinkers. For instance, the school known as Advaita Vedanta, which outside India is far more popular than within India, curiously. And I've always found this very amazing, that if you pick up an encyclopedia or a lexicon of world philosophy, and you look up Vedanta, all these secondary sources pretend that Advaita Vedanta is the real thing. And that's later there were these aberrations called Advaita Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta. They are not the real thing, they are sectarian, theistic mistakes. But Advaita Vedanta is the real thing. Well, if you say this, if you're standing in India today and you say that, there will be a small number of Advaitins who will love you, and the vast majority of the population of India will say, what the heck are you talking about? That's what those people say, that weird sect called Advaitins. Now it happens that in the 19th century, there were certain Indian authors who had learned the English language well, and they were very expressive, they were rhetorically gifted, and they wrote about their own school of thought in English, and that was received by scholars in the Western world. And there was no competition. So these Western scholars thought, this is Vedanta. And oh, these people say that there are these later aberrations. Well, what do we know? That must be true. We have no reason for not believing that. I've been living in India for many years. In the middle of Sanskrit-speaking Panditas, and I know differently. Advaita Vedanta is very clearly a minority position within the Indian philosophical landscape. The majority of Hindus are either followers of Vishishtadvaita or of Dvaita. That's a different matter. Why am I talking about Advaita at all? Because that is an example of atheistic philosophical thought. Because, according to the Advaitins, the Brahman is not a person, but is a thing, an impersonal thing. Not just that, it is described as nirguna. Now, all of you have been listening carefully the past few weeks, and you know that one of the functions of that prefix nir, or nis or nish, means without. So when it is said that Brahman is nirguna, it is without guna. Guna means quality. So the nirguna Brahman is the Brahman without qualities. Does this make any sense? Yes, it does. If you believe, as Advaitins do, that ultimately the entire universe is one thing. Advaita Vedanta is a monistic system of philosophy. And everything that we think that we perceive as this enormous diversity, living and non-living, that I am sitting here and you're sitting there, we are separate people, and I am surrounded by bookcase and books and desk and computer, and everything is distinct from each other. According to Advaitins, this is only appearance. This is illusory. Because ultimately, there is an underlying reality out of which this entire phenomenal diversity came into being. And what does it mean when we speak about qualities of anything? What does it mean when we say that something is heavy? Here in the dictionary, this is a heavy ball. And in the grammar, this is not a heavy ball. It's a light ball. Qualities are based on contrasts. Contrasts, when I say heavy, heavy means not light. So as soon as I talk about any quality, I am contrasting it with what is not that. In other words, diversity. But if you are a monist, there is no diversity in the beginning. And if everything is one, undifferentiated, you cannot speak about anything as heavy or light or red or blue or whatever. Because everything is one. So there cannot be contrasts, right? And therefore, the Brahman is without qualities. It is described as nirguna. So this is what Mrs. Olson said a few minutes ago. That this is one way of thinking about the Brahman, this order that underlies everything. That it is some entity. And we can't even say that it is material or conscious, because it is something that is beyond such categories. Because it's guna. It is not conscious or not conscious. It is beyond that. This is how certain passages in Upanishads have been interpreted, where there are dialogues between teacher and pupil, and the pupil asks, "Is the Brahman this?" And the teacher says, "No." "Well, is the Brahman that?" The teacher says, "No." Finally, the pupil, in desperation, says, "Please tell me what it is." And the teacher says, "Well, I can't tell you. The only thing I can say is no, no." That is neti. Na-iti becomes contracted to neti, and you know why. Because a and e, they merge in sati. And so na-iti becomes neti. And the word iti is a word that marks the end of some sort of mental content. So any idea, any feeling, any hope, any fear, anything that is in the mind can be described, and that description ends with the word iti. So neti can be represented in English translation as no, no, and the no is put between quotation marks. So this is what, for instance, the philosopher Shankara, living around 800 AD, claimed, that the Brahman is nirguna. But 400 years later, there was the thinker Madhvacharya, the founder of Dvaita Vedanta, who most vehemently attacked the core ideas of Advaita Vedanta and said, no, this is terrible. How can these people call themselves Vedantians, people who are in the tradition of Vedic learning? This is grotesque heresy. The Brahman is not Nirguna. No, Brahman is Sarvaguna Paripurna, or filled with all possible qualities. No, it's the exact opposite. And this Sarvaguna Paripurna, that is Madhava's description of Vishnu. For him, he was a theistic thinker, he was a Vaishnava, Vishnuite thinker, and he said, the Brahman, which is mentioned in the Vedas, that is the God whom we know as Vishnu. So in other words, what is the Brahman? You can't say. It depends entirely on whom you're speaking to. Is this person an atheistic thinker or a theistic thinker? What kind of theistic thinker? Brahman can mean all sorts of things. Underlying all these interpretations of the Brahman lies this core idea of the principle that creates order in the universe. That is all we can say about Brahman. Now, back to our text. Anandam Brahmanopam Nijatehe Yavasitam. So the shape of Brahman is situated, Yavasitam, Nijatehe, we already saw that word, in one's own body, and is Anandam. This kind of construction is extremely common in Sanskrit philosophical writing, this appositional construction. You just place words side by side in the same case form, and they can all point to the same thing. So while reading this, we should just bracket them out for the time being. Brahmanopam must be the same thing. Nijatehe Yavasitam, okay, also refers to the same. And then comes a word that does not fit this pattern. Dhyanahina. And did we see that before? Yes, we saw that already in verse 1. Dhyanahina Pashyanti, Nijatehe Yavasitam. We have coming back here in verse 9. So those who do not concentrate, who do not have this focused vision, they do not see. Napashyanti, we already saw that in verse 1. Now what do they not see? The joy that is the form of Brahman, and that is situated within one's own body. In other words, what our author here is doing, because just now we saw what is that thing that is situated in one's own body, which the Dhyanahina do not see. That was the Jiva, that was the self. And now he's saying that that is the form of Brahman. So, our Jaina author is saying, what you people talk about as Brahman, we talk about that same thing as the Jiva. This life force that is the core of every living being. So Dhyanahina Napashyanti, they do not see that. Jatyandha iva bhaskaram. First of all, this word iva. Do not make the mistake of confusing this with eva. Earlier we saw eva. Eva is a word that simply stresses the preceding word. It sort of highlights the word that precedes eva. Iwa is the word of comparison. So Jatyantha Iwa means like Jatyantha. Okay, what does Jatyantha mean? You will notice that there is a gap between the long A and the E. This is suspect because, as we know, if you have a word ending in A and the next word begins with E, A and E merge to become A. Just like na-iti becomes na-iti. Right? I mentioned that a few minutes ago. The word combination of two words that we find over and over again in the Upanishads. It's not here. So why did Jatyantha Iva not become Jatyanteva? Because originally there was something in it, namely S. This is another quirky Sandhi rule, that the combination long A, S before a following vowel or a following voiced consonant becomes long A. So the S disappears. In other words, Jatyantha Iva originally was Jatyanthas Iva. And that makes sense. Andha means blind. Someone who cannot see is Andha. And Jati means birth. So Jatyantha is a birth blind. Who is birth blind? That is somebody who has been blind ever since birth, who has never seen anything. Such a person is Jatyantha. The final E of Jati becomes the semivowel, which we write in transliteration as a Y, because a vowel follows. This is another standard Sandhi rule. So Jatyantha becomes Jatyantha. Andhas is, of course, masculine plural, just as Dhyana-hina. It's the same thing as Dhyana-hinas, but the S is discrete because N is a voiced consonant. Also, masculine plural. People, persons who have been blind since birth. Just like people who are blind since birth, Bhaskaram. Bhaskara is something you can find in the dictionary. All these words that end in kara refer to things that make something. You've already come across the verb kur, which means to do or to make. Kara is derived from that. So a kara is something or someone who does, in this case, bhas, and bhas means light. So Bhaskara is the light maker. What is the light maker? That's the sun. And all this put together, that makes sense. So the Dhyana, those who have no focused attention, do not see the joy which is the form of Brahman and is situated within their own body, just as those who have been blind since birth do not see the sun. Which is dramatical, it's tragical. The sun is such a bright thing. But yeah, if you are Jatyantha, you cannot even see the sun. Just like that, there are people who do not recognize form of Brahman within themselves, which is joy. Mr. Adamson.
Yeah, just so I think this is pretty obvious, but just to double check. So Pashyanti is basically implicit in the comparison, so they don't see the joy, blah blah blah.
Right.
Just as you have to kind of supply that Pashyanti for the thing about the sun, right?
Exactly.
And also,
Like that Syat, which we had in verse
right,
before.
which I think I asked about.
We asked a couple of minutes ago.
That's my favorite point, is the implicit word. Yeah. And also, maybe you were going to come back to this, but what happened to the Chid Atmana at the end of 8 that you said could be genitive or
Could be an ablative, yeah.
ablative, and you weren't sure, so you should keep reading?
Yes.
But I lost track of how it fits in.
Yeah, I'm still there.
You're still working on it, I think.
Or you were still working that out. Mr. Sharma.
Thank you. Quick one. Would it also be okay to translate, instead of saying they do not see the joy that is the form of Brahman,
Yeah.
would it also be okay to say they do not see the joyful form of Brahman?
No. Then, simply because Ananda is joy. And just as your proposal, joyful, is an extension, is joy plus a suffix full, I would have expected something similar in Sanskrit, like Anandapurna. Purna meaning full of something, which is not there. And there are also other devices to indicate the same thing, that somebody or something possesses something. So that could have been, for instance, there's a suffix what, Anandavat, could also mean possessing joy or joyful. It's not here.
Okay, thank you. I think the reason that came to my mind was because I recall you had mentioned that adjectives of a noun follow the same case as the noun. So that the noun, if I had taken the noun to be Brahman, and I would have thought that Ananda, joy, rather than being a noun in its own right, might have just taken the same case because it was qualifying what Brahman was. So it was an adjective. But I clearly misunderstood that.
No, that is not possible, because Brahman, as we've seen, is a genitive. And therefore, any word that qualifies that Brahman should also be a genitive. So that would have been, if we say, not Ananda, but Anandapurna, full of joy, the genitive would be Anandapurnasya.
Oh yes, sorry, I meant form. I meant Rupam.
Correct. Then it would have been the Brahman that is full of joy.
Sorry, I meant it struck me that it was qualifying Rupam, not Brahman, sorry.
Oh no, and then it would have been Anandapurnam Rupam.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Good. Yeah. Mr. Nambrakis has a question.
Just a quick question about how to use the Eva, and earlier we had the Yatha. So is there a rule that the one that Eva follows?
Yes.
Okay, and Yatha precedes it, or is it also interchangeable?
Eva always follows. Yatha usually precedes, but syntactically there is greater flexibility in the use of yatha.
Okay.
And yatha, there's another difference. Eva is always used with nouns or adjectives. Yatha can also be used for longer phrases. For instance, it can be used to qualified verbs. So, let us say, let us suppose that I am a very avid reader. I love reading books, and to me it is like, it's like dancing in the rain. I could say, yata, reading books, tata, like that, is dancing in the rain. And that you cannot do with iba. Any other questions? Good. Then, I have to admit that I'm becoming a bit irritated by this chidatma, which is still hanging in the air.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
I have a question in that line actually. Could Nischayana, sorry if I mispronounced that, could that take a qualification? So could the Chid Atmana express the way in which you decisively or why you decisively know what you know?
That is an interesting possibility. For James, I would like to propose to be lazy, and I'd like to see what the translator says. First of all, let me check. Yes, I did transliterate this correctly. And now I'm seeing what in this Kannada language translation this editor has made out of it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gee, I could have thought of that. The editor says that this genitive, it is a genitive, chidatmana, and it refers to karma. Indeed, that is a grammatical possibility because, as we all know by now, word order in Sanskrit is extremely flexible. So he says, well, I don't really like it. He says this chidatmana is a genitive and it refers to all the karma. I don't know, because this word karma is embedded in larger compounds. Drate karma malaya, bhava karma vivarjita, or karma rahitam. And yeah. It's a very long translation of this one verse, so that suggests that the editor himself had difficulties in understanding this. Okay, my next proposal is, I will read this and let you know next time and see whether this contains a solution somewhere hidden in this translation, which is not really a translation but a commentary. Mr. Shaker.
Yeah. Could it not be accusative plural, chidatmana?
I thought of that as well, but then again, this will hang in the air because, yeah, the structure of a shloka, which is what we discussed, when was it, a few weeks back, is that it consists of 4 padas. And if I read no karmata hitam vidhi, it means know that which is liberated from karma to be this and this and this. And then chidatmana, accusative plural. I'm not so sure. I tend rather to think that chidatmana is not an accusative plural or a genitive singular, rather an ablative singular. No. I'm not going to continue this because I may decide otherwise. So for the time being, I'd like to keep this as it is, and I will read this and see whether the commentator has a clever solution. Maybe Mr. Adamson has a solution.
Probably not, but it's actually, I'm suggesting this not so much because I think it's right, but because I'm interested in whether it's even theoretically possible. So could it be that it's a genitive to be taken with ananda in the next line, so that the joy of the self, so then it would be like the joy of the self in the shape of Brahman, situated in the body, those without contemplation do not know. But the reason I'm asking is I'm wondering whether they would ever do that, like split across verses.
Cross verses.
Is that something they would do? Or can we rule that out simply because the verse ends with Atmana?
Hey. And that would be a genitive just like Brahmana. The Brahmana no is a genitive.
So it'd be Chid Atmana Anandam, and then that would be parallel to Brahmana Rupam. But I don't, like I said, I don't know if they would break a genitive with a...
That would be bad style. But there are people who sometimes make stylistic errors.
Yeah, I'm sort of reluctant to accuse this guy of bad style after studying Sanskrit for 1.5 months.
Well, we will see later on that he also breaks his meter in one place.
But it's grammatically possible, right?
Grammatically, it's possible. Yes, indeed. And I've just been following what our editor has done. He divided this neatly into these double lines, these shlokas, and has numbered them. But yeah. When I say this is a stylistic error, I mean that it's considered ugly to have a sentence consisting of the first 3 padas and let the 4th pada of a shloka be part of another sentence that begins in the next shloka, which is what you're saying. But yeah, this actually is a very good idea, because as we continue, this is what I did in my very quick first reading, is I just read on and on, hoping that the text would explain itself. And as I mentioned earlier, what this author is getting at, and this is what we will see in the following verses, is he wants to say that the jiva is the Brahma. And this is typical for a kind of Jaina literature in later centuries. What I mean is that the religious landscape of India was changing. And this is a text from Karnataka, in southwestern India, which 1,000 years ago had a very sizable Jaina population. At least half of the population, perhaps 3/4 of the population of Karnataka were followers of the Jaina faith. It was a stronghold of that religious, philosophical, spiritual tradition. And from the 12th century onwards, the Jainas had to face a very serious competition from newly created forms of what is loosely called Hinduism, devotional sects of various kinds, for whom the Brahman concept was extremely important. As mentioned earlier, according to some, Vishnu is the Brahman, Shiva is the Brahman. Everyone was talking about Brahman. And the Jainas, who were being pushed into the defensive, they had to join in this general philosophical discourse. They also had to present their own version of what the Brahman is. So they took that same term and reinterpreted it in such a way that it fit their philosophy. And this is what the outcome is, that they say, the Jiva, that is the actual Brahman. And of course, the Jiva is Chidatman. So that, from that point of view, just the message that our author is trying to communicate to us, your proposal makes very good sense. That decisively, the form of Brahman, which is the conscious self, that form which is joy and is situated in one's own body. Yeah, I think that is a solution. I'd like to check that with what our editor has written, but it's a better solution than anything I can come up with for the moment. So we'll keep that in mind, and I'll have a look at this translation and see how that squares up with your proposal. But I think that's a very good proposal. Okay. So anandam brahmano rupam nijadehe astitam jnanahina pashyanti jatyandha iva bhaskaram. Then comes a new sentence. We have a few minutes left today, so we could start reading this. Tadhyanam kriyate bhavyayar mano yena viliyate takshanam drishyate shuddham chamatkara lakshanam. And the next verse starts with a different subject, something in the nominative, so that is clearly a different sentence. In other words, verse 10 is something self-contained. Tadhyanam kriyate bhavyayar. Tadhyanam, dhyana we have already seen in the very first verse. Dhyana, focusing of the attention, meditation, contemplation. Tadhyana is concentration on tat. Tat means that. In the immediately next line, we see that same tat, but written T-A-T, takshana. Why is that? Because takshana, ka of kshana is unvoiced, the d of dhyana is voiced, and that affects the final consonant that precedes. So there it is tad dhyanam, but tat kshanam. So tad dhyanam is that contemplation. That is contemplation of that. Now what is that? That must be Brahmana Rupam. which is not seen by the people who are devoid of this concentration. And they do not see that. But concentration on that, kriyate. Kriyate is a verb form. It is a passive. Now, I hope that yes, in the grammatical notes, you'll see passive mode with the paragraph numbers in these 4 selected grammars. There you can read how the passive mode is created. Distinctive of the passive mode are 2 things. One is the suffix ya, and the personal endings are the so-called middle endings. So it's not the endings like ti, but those like te, which we've discussed a few weeks ago. Kriyate is third person singular, and it means is made. This is the kriyate from kr. The verb kr is slightly irregular. So the passive stem is not kriyate, which we would expect, but kriyate. One nice thing about these irregular verbs is that they are so frequent. They're not really many, but they occur over and over again, and so it is useful to recognize some of these forms because you see them over and over again. So kriyate means it is made, it is done. What is done? Contemplation of that. So the contemplation of the form of Brahman is made bhavyayar. Again, a word with this ayar ending. We've already seen that just recently. Where was it? Dravya karma malayar. And we know that that's the distinctive ending of a plural instrumental of neuter or masculine nouns ending in a. Bhavyayar means by the bhavyas. So something or someone is bhavya, plural instrumental. The instrumental, one of the uses of the instrumental case is to indicate the of a verb that is in the passive, which we have here. So kriyate bhavyayar means it is done, it is made by bhavyas. Which brings us to the question, what is a bhavya? This is a typically Jaina technical term. You have to look it up in the dictionary. It is derived from the verb who means to become. So bhavya etymologically means that which should become. In Jaina theory, a distinction is made between 2 classes of people. Some are called bhavyas, others are called abhavya. So you have those who will become and those who will not become. Become what? Liberated. Certain persons, this is something that, and I've spoken about this several times with Jaina scholars in India, and nobody had an explanation for this. It is simply assumed that certain people have an inborn ability to realize certain religious truths. And because they have this innate ability, they will live according to those truths. They will get rid of their karma, and they will achieve liberation. And there are certain other people, so-called abhavyas, they do not have this ability, and they will be incarnated over and over again indefinitely. I have never come across any explanation why there should be these two categories of persons. I have never found anything in the literature I've read. No living person has ever been able to explain this to me. It's an assumption. Perhaps it is a very trivial assumption that you just look around you in society and you see certain people who have a tendency to do good, who want to do what is right. There are people who couldn't care less. But I have never seen, never read, never heard a argumentation why it is so. It is it's a basic idea in Jainism. There are certain people who have this ability, others do not. Those who have the ability are called bhavya. So by the bhavyas is done contemplation of that. Mano yena viriyate. Yena, again this ena ending, which I like so much because it is so immediately recognizable, like swabhavena, nischayena. Yena, it is an instrumental singular. In this case, it is the instrumental of the relative pronoun yas. Yas masculine or yat neuter. So by which or by whom? In this case, I would vote for by which because I assume it refers to Tatnyanam. By which manas, the mind, viliyate. Again, a passive verb, just like kriyate, viliyate. Vili, I hope it's in the glossary. Yes, it is. It means to be merged. I wrote to merge, that's wrong. Viliyate is to be merged, by which is merged, or with which is merged, manas. Manas is the mind. Manas becomes mano, because it is followed by yil. This semi-vowel yil is, of course, a voiced consonant, therefore manas becomes mano, just as brahmanas becomes brahmano before rupam. Mano yena viliyate. So the mind is merged, with which the mind is merged. Takshanam drishyate shuddham. Drishyate is another passive, is seen. What is seen? Is it takshanam? Could be. Kshana means moment. No, unfortunately. Takshanam, idiomatically, has a meaning. It's an adverbial meaning. It means immediately. Literally, takshana means that moment. But takshanam, as a single word, means at once, immediately. Immediately is seen. Shuddham. Shuddham means pure, unblemished. Which is chit chamatkara lakshanam. A lakshana is a characteristic. Chit, we've already seen, it is consciousness. And chamatkara is a nice word. It consists of two elements, chamat and kara. As you can guess, kara is derived from kur. we saw just a little while ago, we saw a word ending in kara, bhaskara, and that is the thing that makes light. A chamatkara is the thing itself that is made, and it is chamat. Chamat is an onomatopoeic word for astonishment, joyful astonishment. So chamat means wow. So chamatkara means the wow making. That means delight, surprise, wonder. Okay, those are the elements of this verse, but I see that we're already 9 minutes over time, which means that I should set you free, let you go. We've discussed the elements of this verse, so there's a nice bit of homework for you. Think about this verse and make sense of it. Piece the elements together and think out for yourself how this verse could be translated in an elegant and meaningful way. And in the meantime, I will have a look at the booklet and see whether the editor of the text agrees with Mr. Adamson's interpretation of Chidatmana, which I think is very good. So these are some of the things that we will discuss next week. And I hope to see all of you again next week, same time, same place. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.